Hi everyone and welcome back to WARNO. So today, much like the other day, I thought we'd play a game versus AI, but I thought first, why don't we actually build the deck we're going to use? So this is the 5th E French division, and right now it's considered in a pretty good place in the game. The infantry fighting vehicles with autocannons are in a good place, and this is an easy way to get them. You get a nice variety of tanks and things. It's not a bad deck at all. So you'll have seen it probably played quite a few times in the recent tournament. Our deck isn't going to be built exactly the same as it would be for a 1v1, because we're not really using it in a 1v1 situation, and you're going to be tailoring it slightly differently. But let's whiz through. We're not going to do a big in-depth build, we're just going to whiz through and I'll try and explain what I'm choosing as I choose it. So first thing first is I like supply trucks. I'm not a big fan of choppers. It's a personal thing, so I would definitely take 2 of those. Some people might take a chopper. For your command vehicle here, your choice is basically for me between these 2. I wouldn't even give the VAB a look in really. You either want the AMX-10 in my opinion because of that autocannon, it can defend itself, or indeed going for the standard Jeep because you get 4 of them, and that's where I'm going to go right now. Infantry, you've got quite a nice set of choices here. I'm not sure you'd necessarily take it in this deck because you've got a limited amount of infantry slots, you know, if you were, say, playing in a 1v1 tournament. However, I'm going to stick the big machine gun in because I want to test it out. And we'll make it ridiculously expensive by bringing in an AMX 10P so it comes in with some fire support, as it were. Then in terms of other units, I'd probably grab the Milan too, because it's the better, well, I say it's the better of the 2. Accuracy isn't a huge difference between these 2, however, the damage output obviously is. I'd also just perhaps bring them in a standard vehicle. The Milan, or the AMX 10P Milan, is very tempting, but it's 40 points. We're probably better off going the P4 Jeep and then just selling it afterwards. Of the infantry, my personal favourite are the Voltigeurs EPICBANDANNER. If you compare them, they're 5 points more, but look at the weapon damage or the penetration on that EPICBANDANNER launcher compared to the LRAC F1. I mean, it is obscene, and rate of fire is double, might I add. Rate of fire is 20 per minute, that only gets 10 per minute. So you definitely want to take these guys, and I would take them in the VAB T20. It gives them that little bit of extra fire support from that 20mm cannon. It also has a machine gun, but I'm really liking the 20mm there. Other than that, you can have something for close range support. You've got Sappers, Flam, and you've got standard Sappers. Satchel charges are really good. They can fire on the move again or be thrown on the move. Obviously, you have to be pretty close. Flamethrowers obviously have a bit more range. Personally, I quite like the satchel charges for close range, but this could well be a personal choice, and you may feel differently. But I like chasing people around with the sappers. Now, for these guys, you have a couple of choices for what to bring them in with. You can bring them in with just an AMX-13 with a machine gun. You can have an AMX-13 with a 20mm, or indeed a TRM-2000. For these, no matter which one you take, I'd actually recommend the 20mm, because both of these squads aren't exactly great against vehicles. Okay, the satchel charge will do some damage to vehicles because it's got 2 penetration, but it's not going to be amazing. And equally, the Flam definitely aren't going to do much to vehicles. So take them with an autocannon. Should we do that just to test that out? Let's test that theory. So we'll take the flamethrower ones instead. We've got 3 slots left. I quite like taking an infantry commander. Not everybody does. I think that some of the pros would actually avoid it because of the expense and the fact they take an infantry slot. So you could just not bother. In terms of infantry, you've got a few choices here. I think the chasseurs aren't terrible. I mean, I'd really be comparing them to the Grenadier Voltigeurs. You get 10 guys there. Let's pin that actually. And then the chasseurs, you get 8. In terms of their weaponry, obviously it's very similar, but the Grenadier Voltigeurs get extra weaponry because they get the extra men. Simple as that, really. 2 extra guys, 2 extra FAMAs. So, you know, there are benefits to both. One is just simply 10 points cheaper. It's like you're paying 10 points for 2 more men there. So, either way, they're both pretty good. You do get the advantage, you can bring those guys in an AMX 10p if you're fancying that. Grenadier Voltigeurs can come in a variety of things, including the VAB. I'd probably bring some in the VAB, personally. And then I'd probably consider bringing some in just in a standard truck that we can sell in case we're hard on cash. Again, personal choice. And then you got commandos down here and the group anti-char. The group anti-char obviously have 2 APALAS launchers, which is really nice. So they're going to be very dedicated anti-tank. Because you don't actually get a anti-tank recoilless rifle in this deck. So if you're wanting something that's anti-tank, that's a good way to go. Obviously, they're shorter range. Commandos, I really struggle to get on board with this because I don't feel they're necessarily much better than the Grenadier Voltigeurs, other than the fact that, you know, they're ranked up, but you can rank those guys up as well. So what do we put in this last slot? I'd be tempted to put in a command infantry, but the command infantry choices aren't great here. At least that's got 8 men in that squad. The sappers have 8 as well, and they have a machine gun. They're not really going to defend themselves, though. You might be better off just taking some more infantry. Prevote, spammable, cheap infantry with a submachine gun. Very good at close range against people. That's not a terrible option. Reservists, no anti-tank, but a big squad. Escort, FAMASs. There's a good selection here what you can choose from, and I'm honestly not sure where to go from here. Are they worth bringing in just for the really cheap option of some spammy infantry? You get 9 of them, they're 40 points, you can bring them in that and sell them. I've got plenty of infantry fighting vehicles of some description with autocannons on there. But is it worth bringing them in with some fire support? I'm tempted to do that just for them being a little bit cheaper, and overall that'll be 75. So it gives them an armoured personnel carrier with an autocannon. Let's try that, and let's forgo the infantry command. I may regret that. Artillery, well, this is pretty straightforward. We're going to take the mortars, and we're going to take the AMX Alpha 1, and then we're going to leave those 2 single slots as they are. I don't like leaving single slots, but I honestly just don't see us needing more than that. Unless you're really big on artillery. So, tanks. B2 Brennus is the best tank they get. We're definitely going to take that. Do we rank it up or not? It's quite a nice boost to its accuracy. And it does increase its fire rate to 10. I think we'll take that ranked up. AMX 30B2 standard without any fancy upgrades. I think again we will take a few of those. We've got plenty of slots here. We have this for anti-infantry, which can be quite annoying harassment wise. I'll probably stick those in. Quite like a command tank. And since we're not taking any command infantry, I'm leaning towards taking this. You get 2 of them, so that's pretty reasonable. They're just quite expensive. I did say I might go back and take logistics, I guess. We'll see. And the AMX 30, I suppose for a reasonably cheap tank to bring in, something a little bit more spammable, I'd probably consider sticking that in. It just gives you something cheap and cheerful to bring in, and I wouldn't necessarily even level that up. I'd just keep it low and use it for a little bit of defensive harassment. Don't know what else I'd go for there. I don't think you necessarily need to fill all those slots. Just because it's a tank-leaning deck doesn't mean you need to. Let's move on from there. So, Recon AMX-10 is ridiculously good. Very good optics. It's got a tank cannon. I mean, what's not to like? Take that. And the other AMX-10, again, very good optics. It's got a tank cannon. We're taking that. These are pretty good early game. Otherwise, you got the AMX-10, but that's tracked and it's only got a machine gun. VBL Eco, it does have a machine gun on top. Milan, if you wanted a Milan launcher. You got the Alouette if you're into your recon choppers. I definitely want recon infantry. Your choice here is either just basically a free vehicle that you can sell, or something that acts as another recon. I think I'd just go with the one that I can sell. I'm not going to rank those guys up. And you do have option of the VAB Razit here, which has exceptional optics. There's something to be said for exceptional optics in this game. It certainly does give you an advantage, and there are only a few vehicles that get it in the game, so let's think about that and come back. Anti-air, well, I mean, you're not really spot for choice here, but there's some obvious things we're definitely going to take, which are the Mistrals in the P4. They're pretty darn good on accuracy, and you're going to need them against choppers. You got the Roland 2 and the Roland 3. The Roland 2 has delightfully been switched to manual guidance, and it's no longer radar, so I would stick that in. You could potentially consider ranking it up, but I think I'd want all 6 of them. The Roland 3 is radar and has a very nice range against aircraft. That is an option. And you also have this. Again, it's radar. It's a bit cheaper, and they're pretty good in general, the anti-air guns, so I'd probably stick that in. You could also take the Roland 3 if you wanted. Helicopters wise, I mean, it's the Gazelle Hots. I'm not a big fan of choppers, but since it's only taking up 1 point slot, let's take one of those. I like choppers with lots of rockets, but these ones with just anti-tank missiles aren't big in my mind. Now, here's where we get some interesting stuff. So, in terms of the jets, there aren't a lot of choices here. I think the Mirage Cluster is a really good choice because it's got 9 bombs, so you're going to do a lot of damage with that. Napalm isn't bad, but it's quite expensive for what it is. You only get 4 bombs there. I think there's better options. HE, again, 4 bombs, but reasonably big bombs. I think that's a good option. It's also got some anti-air and a cannon. Jaguar ATGM, I think that's a good option. It's got very high penetration and very good accuracy. So I'd stick that in if nothing else. Seed is an option. Depends who you're going up against. I mean, I would probably take a seed plane for most team games, and certainly versus the AI. Because chances are they're going to bring the radar AI out, and the AI certainly aren't going to know how to control it. So I don't think that's bad. The only problem it does have is it's only got 1 missile, which I think is a bit of a shame. But we can stick that in. In terms of your AA, our anti-air jets, I think we should take a few here. This has better range than this. This only has 6900. This has 7075 even. Very high speed, even faster speed. I mean, you get a lot of these. You could take some of each, to be honest. I could even just take 2 sets of these. I think overall these are better. They just lack a little bit of range, but their speed makes up for it probably. I think we go with 2 of those. That takes us to 45 and 50, so we've got space to take something else. Could potentially go for some HE bombs if you were feeling so inclined. I'm actually going to swing back here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the AMX-10 PC as logistics vehicle, or command vehicle I should say, in logistics tab. Infantry is full. Artillery, I wouldn't take anything else there. Tanks, we could ditch the command tank and take something else. We could stick something else. Actually, we couldn't, could we? Because we're kind of... Well, we could take a different tank instead of that. We can easily take some more recon or anti-air, though. Let's stick the Razor in, and I can demonstrate the fact of its beneficial, exceptional optics. There we go. That'll do. How ridiculously long did I spend on building that deck? Probably too long. Or like 15 minutes. That's not too bad. Okay, fine. Let's save that. And let's try that against the AI. Okay, so same map, other side, which may be beneficial to us actually, because we aren't going to be rushing because we don't have forward deployment troops. So we're not going to be doing the push we did last time. So last time we were at the other side and we pushed down here very early with those forward deployment troops and we pushed into Charlie and took it off the AI. We will struggle to do that this time because we don't have any forward deployment. We're going to be relying on our recon to get up to the front because that's the furthest we can push forward, and then everything else is sort of going to be coming up at the rear. But we have some very nice tank guns on these recon vehicles, so we'll be making good use of these. So we need to cover some areas of the map, in my opinion. So the first area of the map we need to cover is up here. Now do bear in mind that there is a hill here on the map just in front of me. You see that hill? So we need to make sure our units are over that to be shooting down that way. So we're going to fast move him into these trees here. This is just a bush line. It doesn't count as cover. So don't mistake that. It's just a bush line. If the cursor doesn't change to sort of yellowy orange, then that's not cover. These trees are cover, but you have to position your cursor perfectly on them to get it to change, which is a little bit confusing, but you'll get the idea as we play along. So where else do we need to cover? That's going to cover here, this road mainly, because we're not going to beat them to these buildings. Or it's very unlikely that we'll beat the AI to those buildings. We need to think about this side as well, so we're going to put another one of those here. I'm going for the cheap ones first. And we're going to fast move that and try and get it into here. And then we can move it up through the trees. So hold shift to then give another move command. Okay? In fact, what you could even do is press fast move. And then hold shift, press Q and do an attack move to move it up to there. And that means it will engage anything it sees on the way. That's probably a better option. Okay. Then we need to think about this side as well. So they could potentially rush down here to get into Charlie. So we need to stop them doing that. So once again, we're going to use one of these. We're going to stick it on this road here. And we're going to fast move that up to here. And the aim being that it can shoot down that road. I'm not expecting to be able to push with it, but if I can stop them coming, that's a good thing. And then here, once again, we're going to do that. And we're going to make that move fast and try and get it up to here. Again, I'm trying to be slightly defensive about this. And if we look, if we put that in the edge of there, that gives us a nice shot down the road. If we put that in there, that gives us a nice shot down that road. You can just see if I zoom in a bit. You see where we're looking down the road there? And again here, we're looking down the road. Over here where we've placed one, we've got a nice shot down the road there. And here we'll be pushing up to here to get a good shot all over this area once it moves up. So, where are we left? So we're left with the middle. So we can send a mixture of units here. So certainly we can send some recon infantry. And we put that down and we're going to move this. And we're going to unload our guys. So we're going to try and get them into that building there. So they will fast move and try and get in there. This may not work. They could come up here very quickly and kill that. So we need to try and watch it as it goes in. We're going to put a second one down. And this one we're going to, again, press Y and move and unload it. And we're going to try and get this one up here into this building. And then the final thing I'd like to do is possibly to get one of these vehicles over here. Probably best to spawn it at this side and then I can drive through the town up that way. So we'll go for the AMX. Well, you know what we could do? Let's get a Van Brazit just so we're showing that off a bit for its exceptional optics. And we'll just fast move that up to here. It doesn't have any weapons on it, so it should stay pretty well hidden. Okay. That's us getting into a forward defensive position. Now we need to think what comes next. Where are they going to hit us hard? So there is a risk they push us at Charlie. So we need to make sure we have a reasonable amount of defenses here. We've got plenty of buildings to play with. And obviously we need to be aware that they could even try and rush us. So infantry-wise, I think we take a Milan 2. And we try and get a Milan into this building here. I'm not sure of these two roads which would actually reach that faster. But we'll go with this side for now. And again, we're going to press Y, and we just want to try and unload this guy in this front building. Because we should already have some recon there, so we don't need to bring in more recon at this side. Hopefully these vehicles survive. Then we need to think about what we're bringing in to defend this point. So we could probably bring in one of these guys to try them out. They're going to trundle along behind a bit because that's not the fastest vehicle. But we will command that to perhaps unload in here. And that can provide some fire support in that direction. And eventually, after it's unloaded, maybe we move them up to these buildings here. I think the next thing we do is bring in a couple of squads of standard infantry. And maybe we bring them in the T-20s. I'm not sure whether I want to bring the AP. I suppose actually because the vehicles will be coming down that road, let's bring in these guys and one of these guys. So we've got one of each. And we're just going to move these fast. And we're going to try and unload them in this forest area. And then we'll probably try and move them into these buildings here and push them up into here. Eventually, what would be nice is if we could build up a small force of infantry, push them along the side here and get into this point. Next, we need to think about the center of the map and this side. So ideally, it would be nice to get something into these buildings here. Again, long-range stuff isn't going to be great here. So if we, hit C there, we can see out this way, but we're limited in sight over here. We can sort of just see the fronts of that, but not very well, and we can't really see over here. So I don't think a Milan in there is going to be the most beneficial thing. I think what we could stick in there is just some standard infantry. So I'm going to stick these guys in, and we'll just move those guys all the way up here. With the intent maybe at some point we could move into this building, and if we get in that building, then we would want potentially a Milan and some standard infantry to be able to get long and short range. We're going to have recon in there, hopefully. We're going to have recon over here. We maybe need to think about bringing some more infantry in over here. So let's just bring in these guys in a VAB. And again, we're just going to move them fast and get them up here. Okay, we've got 465 points left. We need to start thinking about air defense, I think, at this stage. We've got a reasonable spread of recon. We've got a reasonable spread of units to provide early defense. If they push us in one area really hard, we either need fast reaction force or we need to spend more on stuff coming in. Fast reaction is going to be jets in this case, but we don't really want to buy that right off the bat unless we have to, but we could save some points. I think what we need in the middle is potentially a Milan 2 in these buildings here, but then you've got this which is pretty close, which concerns me. But we could bring in a Milan 2, I think, and try and get it into this building here, and it just gives us some line of sight over there. And we could support them with that squad of infantry. Now, anti-air missiles are pretty good early game. We could probably utilize them over here. Rolands are pretty good as well. Let's get a Roland in, and we'll get a Roland into here at the back. Let's get that into, maybe even, now let's put it there for now. Now we can move it up once we know more stuff's secure. The Roland is nice because we don't have to worry about it. Mistral's pretty good. Maybe we can get one of that into one of these buildings here. So we'll stick him down there, and Try and get them into this building for now. I'm just thinking about early choppers. And maybe we send a Roland to the middle. Or do we send one of those early to the middle? Let's try one of these. And we get that fast. And just try and position it somewhere in the trees at this back bit so it's a little bit defended. And there's something in front of it. Okay. We've got 120 points left. I'm not buying any commands right off the bat. Aircraft. We're a little bit far away from getting aircraft, aren't we? But as soon as that ticks over, we can afford any of them. Against a player, you may be wanting to bring in an anti-air jet straight away. Maybe we use this opportunity to spend our points on some more infantry. So we don't really have much at this side, do we? So let's bring in... I don't know what would be good at this side. Milans have quite a good viewing distance out of there, actually, if they're in that building. Because they can see through all of this. So let's put a Milan in that building. Ooh, where am I at? Coming from this side, maybe? I don't think it makes too much difference which side I put it on. So, we'll put them in there. And that only leaves us 25 points, which isn't going to get us anything. So we go with what we've got. We have something to cover everywhere. So let's launch the battle and see where we end up. Bearing in mind, we can pause at any time and have a look at where we're at. I need to remember I can do that. It's easy to forget. So, we're keeping an eye on our AMXs to see what they see ahead. And we're also keeping an eye on this squad that we sent to the middle. That's why I'm so zoomed out. I've got to try and remember that I need to look at everything right now, because I'm looking for where we bump into enemy forces. Again, this is a medium AI. They're not going to be as smart as a player, and they're not going to do the weird stuff a player would do. So immediately they've got a command in. I'm not worrying about commands right now. I can get commands later. 12 seconds till we get our first set of cash, and we need to be thinking about what we're spending it on. So that AMX is now going to push up. We've got no contacts here at the moment. There we go. So we've got enemy choppers. So that was one thing we had to be worried about. So now we choose a jet and we're bringing it in, and we're just going straight for this. I'm going to unload these guys. I can just tell that to unload there because it's getting shot at. I'm going to swing this round. It's getting shot at by AA already. We're going to try and swing it around to kill that. We're going to get these guys in this building. The Mistrals are engaging. Where's my jet at? Swinging the long way around. But it is coming back around to finish off that chopper. The chopper's dead. We can see choppers at the back, but I'm going to evac that now because it's done its job. We've defended as best we can early. I'm going to move this into here. We got a VAB there. We did lose our recon that was here, but that's okay. We've still got our éclaireurs. We're going to move the Milan up because we need the Milan to be able to engage enemy tanks. We're pretty secure down here. I'm going to move the AMX-10 up this way because they've sent a lot to the middle. So we need to think about tanks next. So I'm going to bring in the Brennus, which is our most expensive tank. And I'm going to bring in a B2 as well, which is our second most expensive. We're killing that, no problem. Yeah, I just sent that in far too close to us. AMXs are getting shots off at the tanks and killing them, which is really good. The Milan is going to come and sit in here. These Grenadiers are going to come and sit in here. That Milan 2 has coverage there. So, let's pause a brief second. What have we done? So, all of our vehicles that could be salvaged are going back to be sold. And we've called in 2 tanks for the centre because that's where we seem to have a lot of their forces. We've not seen any contacts here at the moment, and we've not seen any contacts here. We do have our infantry here. So the next thing we could possibly do is think about bringing in some more infantry, bolstering this force, and being able to push that up that side. So that's maybe what's in my head. Are we secure here? We've got an anti-air jet to deal with choppers. We've got anti-air on the ground that can deal with choppers and aircraft as well. And we've got some anti-tank, and the tank gun recon is doing a good job at, you know, being a pain in their ass at this side. We also could think about pushing into this building here with our Grenadier Voltigeurs and trying to secure this here to stop any infantry coming in. So, 60 points left. Where are we going to spend it on infantry? That's not enough to get any of our infantry because I brought in very expensive infantry. So we unpause and we continue. So there we go. T-55 there. That 10p is going to be at risk, so we need to move it. The Milans can fire down at it there. The AMX-10 can engage it there. So that's taking shots. And that they're missing at the moment, so we're very lucky. But it would technically win out because it's a tank. But oh, we're going to win that fight, actually. AMX-10s are ridiculously good. Yeah, that surprises me, to be honest. They're pushing some infantry up here, which is a mistake. We can engage those. Let's put these guys back in this building, because if we push them up here, their enemy tanks will be able to engage. Mistrals are doing a good job. I'm a little bit worried about the Mistrals, so let's bring in some resupply here. I want to bring in some more AA, because they're using a lot of choppers, so I'm just going to bring in another anti-air unit here. They're sending infantry across here. Our autocannons will engage on that. We need some more logistics over this side. So the autocannon's doing a good job there. I might bring the VAB round this way as well to assist. Maybe we need some more infantry here with some VABs. So let's bring in these guys in a VAB. Just because of the additional fire support. They're kind of pinned down now. We could consider bringing in something to try and deal with them. We could bring in this, and it can attack ground units. So let's try that. It does have like a gun on it, so it can do a strafing run. Why are my units upset by something? Possibly those guys on the move. Evac that again. It's getting shot at from the back there. That's just anti-air there. So we've stopped those coming in. The VABs did their job. They would like to push there. We're going to move this guy over here. I'm going to move this guy into this line here. They're finally sending something this way, but the AMX-10 will deal with it. Fantastic. So, infantry, I want another squad of these guys. And I probably want some flams. Did you see that there? There was something over there. So let's bring in some recon team there. So there was something over there. I don't know what it was. But there was definitely something there. Let's just move our infantry up this way slightly in a sort of defensive posture. Now, they're getting a lot of points, so we need to start thinking about bringing in some commands. So we're going to bring in a command here, and we're going to bring in a command here at the back. These guys are doing okay. I'm a little bit worried about this stuff pushing up here. We're going to move the tank up so it can fire at these guys. They're sending tanks this way, so we need to start thinking about this side. So maybe we bring in a tank over here. And we probably need to resupply that, but it might die in the meantime. So we could probably bring in some infantry up this side. Yeah, that's taking a lot of fire now. We maybe need to think about smoking if it doesn't get the kill off this time. It's alright, it got the kill. That needs repairing. We're bringing in a tank to support it, and we're bringing in some infantry. We're bringing in our commands. We need to think about pushing. I'm thinking we push this side, so I want to bring in some cheap tanks. So, just a couple of these guys, and we're going to move them into here. And my intention is to push the infantry this way and the tanks this way and try and surround the enemy. Obviously, all the while being aware that they were sending something around the back, so we need to be careful. I'm thinking we bring in a recon team. Maybe a Vaborasic because they're pretty cheap, and we're just going to stick it in here. And it just provides us a line of sight around this back point if they do push around the back. AI can be sneaky. Enemy spotted there. I mean, enemy are being very silly. They just keep sending stuff along there, and we're dealing with it. We have the capacity to deal with it. I'm going to push this right up to the end of here, so we can take out these vehicles. Turret struck. This tank can push up to the edge of here now. And the AMX-10 is going to push up to here, and we're going to move those infantry into there. I'm also going to bring in some more infantry up to here in a VAB. Reinforcements are starting to arrive here. Oh, there's a load of stuff coming down here again. Do we need to bring in a cluster bomber or an ATGM jet? Possibly in it, yeah. So we've lost our vehicle there. So Jaguar ATGM jet coming in. We're going to go for that. The Milan's engaging it as well. We can always switch targets. Milan got the kill. We'll go for the tank instead. ATGM jet obviously will be very effective against this. We want to bring in another recon vehicle then, because that's been doing a really good job there. ATGM jet swinging off. We can try and swing it back around to attack that instead. Our Milan 2 there is being awesome. So maybe we don't need to do that. Let's evac that jet again then. Nice to have it there as an option. Maybe we put the Brennus in this forward position here, and then they can sort of support each other. They're trying to send a rocket chopper at us. That's okay. So we've got plenty of points. Let's bring in a anti-infantry tank at this side to support when we go in. We've got plenty of fire going on these guys. We've got plenty of supplies here as well. I would like to push into here, so I'm going to bring in some more infantry. Let's bring in some cheaper chasseurs. And we are sort of in a good defensive position. The AI will continue to struggle. I could put a command in here now and start ticking my points up, but I'd rather show you an attack. So we're going to go into Echo. We will support ourselves with potentially some smoke. So let's bring in a couple of mortars, and we're just going to sit them at the back here. And we can smoke our way in. They're coming along here again, but we should be able to engage them very shortly with our tank. There we go, tank's engaging. We can unload these guys here, and we can just slowly move them up here. Still concerned that we saw something flash up over there, because we don't know where that is. So these guys are doing a great job there. We're just going to push this up so it's resupplying the tank as well. So we're pretty defensive, we're pretty secure, and versus the AI, that's generally going to work. Now we need to think about doing a push at this side. So we've got lots of infantry in vehicles. We've got these guys that aren't out the vehicles yet. I'm going to unload these ones, the Iclear Recon Squad, and we're going to push those up with these infantry. We're going to have a couple of squads of infantry in their vehicles still here, and we can try and rush them up when we need to. So they're pushing in again with a tank, but we should be able to take that out. I'm going to push my tanks onto the road here to try and engage this stuff that's coming along. We're showing our hand here. We're showing the enemy what we've got, but the AI won't respond. A human player would, potentially, so it's something to be aware of. We don't know what they've got in there. These aren't the best tanks, by the way, but they're just good fire support. So these guys are pushing up, and we're going to push these guys up around here. So there's some infantry there that came out of that vehicle, but that's not too scary. We are... oh, good. These guys have arrived, so we can push these up. We're going to try and get into that forest, as I say. I'm going to push the Mistral up. That is... got 5 supplies left, so we'll bring in another supply vehicle here, because we're going through those supplies pretty quickly. The Mistral, it would be nice if we could get into range of that chopper. I think it's ducked down at the minute. I'm going to try and get it in that building. And I'm going to push these guys up here. And try and secure this area as well. And we bring in some more infantry at that side. How are we doing over here? So, we're taking a bit of fire. But we're okay. Infantry are just chugging along very slowly. There we go. So we've met some enemy infantry. That died immediately because it's no good up close on its own. That's my fault. We're going to bring in some flame troops. Spotted some infantry there, which we will engage on. And our Mistral's engaging on that chopper. There we go. So fire support from the tanks on these guys. We should be able to make short work of them. How are we doing at this side? So this is where we really want to push. They're going to keep pushing the middle. We've got a nice strong defensive line there. They would have to try very hard to get past us. So we're pushing into here. I'm going to start moving up the AMX into here. And we're going to move up the tank as well. And this side we're going to move these two tanks up slightly. Just to see if we get any shots from them. I'm going to push these Grenadier Voltigeurs up into here now. I want more infantry at that side before we move there. These guys have arrived, so we're going to unload them. And we're going to select them both. And I'm going to put them on control group 1. So hold control and press a number key and it will put them on a control group. And anytime I press the number 1, I will select them. I can then press T to target an area. Or I can press B to smoke an area. So plenty of options there. Enemy sending anti-air there. Still trying to push tanks across the middle. We are running out of supplies in the center here. So we need to bring in some logistics. I've been a bit slow on that. I'm going to unload these guys. I would love to push some infantry over here. I'm not sure if I'll get away with it, but I'm going to try. Our tank is under fire from that T-55. But we have a better tank, technically. So we should win that fight. We just need to hit it with a few shots. So, we're in here now, which is really good. Our tanks haven't been shot at, so we're going to push them up to here. We're going to push these up to here. And we're going to move these fast and try and unload them in this building. Because we're in a reasonably good position here. Okay, so we found some enemy units. We're going to engage them. Now, we're not in the best position with these vehicles because they can take rocket fire. So, yeah, we lost one. But I'm not too worried about that. We just want them to do their job. We're going to rush these guys across. Yeah, they're not going to survive against that. But the APICBANDANNER will absolutely wreck this tank. We're going to try and get these guys into this building. There you go. That's immediately dead, you see. That'll come across to try and engage our forces, but we've got tanks covering this route. So we've got one squad of APICBANDANNER in here, and we're going to push this across to that side. We're going to move these guys up. We've got some enemy infantry there. Let's support our guys by pushing up these, the VABs, with their autocannons. And we're going to push these tanks up into the middle of this point now. This is still looking down there. We're going to try and get it into there eventually. These VABs are going to come across here, and the sappers are going to push up there. And we're going to move these guys this way. So Q move to there, and then a Q move to there. So they're firing on us with those, so we're going to push our tanks up. This is an anti-infantry tank, so we're leaving this round the back. ATGM jet coming in to assist. Now, we've got all these units here, so we're going to fast move them into here. We're going to try and get these guys in there. We're also going to move these guys up this way. And we're going to try and push multiple areas on the map at once, in an effort to confuse our enemy. So they're doing it. They've got a lot of stuff here, so this is quite frustrating. I don't know if we got a kill there, which isn't ideal. They've got AA in the middle. So we took a shot. We'll see if we can swing back around and hit these tanks again. But we need to then evac that. We are winning, but we need to bring in some more tanks. We've got loads of points. I'm just not spending them. So we can bring in a load of tanks. Okay, that took another shot. So let's just evac that. Let's grab the cluster bomber. In case they send a load of tanks at us again. Let's move the Voltigeurs up. So we lost our tanks there, which is unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. We're going to push these guys up, because these got into a reasonable position here. So we're mostly in control of the central point now. These guys obviously in a good position as well. So let's unload them. Let's move this AMX into here as well. And let's move a squad of infantry up to here. and a squad up to this side just to see what they can see. We've got loads of infantry here, so we're going to unload. And we're going to push into this area and just make sure it's clear. I might leave one squad in this area. So there we go. Enemy units there. So we'll just move most of our forces to attack them. And how are we doing over here? Pretty good. We've got plenty of VABs here, providing lots of fire support down there. VAB is giving us a very reasonable line of sight over this area. They're trying to engage our forces here. Let's bring in some more infantry in APCs. And we have tanks on the way. We have 3 big tanks on the way. Let's bring in a couple of cheap tanks to help defend at this side. EPICBANDANNER can push up to this road here along with this, because they're going to be bringing in infantry. Because they would love to take this off us. They want it back. And our recon are going to get right up to there. Maybe we need some recon at the back here, so let's bring in some more eclairs up there. All the while, we've got some defences back here, which we could technically now think about moving up. So let's move up our ATGM into that building. And let's move up our machine gunner into there. So we now control this area of the map. There's nothing here that can scare us. And as much as they could push us, it would be difficult for them. We've got a nice secure defense there. We've got a good secure defense forward position here. We've got 1,000 points. We can bring in some more AA, because why not? Not that they're really using any aircraft against us. We can bring in a couple more tanks for the centre here. And we could bring in even our artillery pieces just for some fire support. Here we go. So some enemy units engaging on us here. They've pushed up. So let's move these vehicles up to engage as well. Pioneer Flams will get in range. They got Pioneers, so we don't want to get too close to them. Let's push our infantry up here and the chasseurs. We want to get in range, preferably to use our flamethrower. So you see the inner circle is the flamethrower. Or the second circle. Oh, we lost there to long range fire. Let's bring in our jet to attack those. So, loads of units here again, but we're in a better position. We're pretty secure. We probably need to bring in some supplies here, because these guys are struggling a bit, and some supplies up here for these EPICBANDANNER guys. Maybe move one of these up here. Kind of need some supplies here as well in the middle, because those guys need rearming and repairing. I'm going to try and get these into the building here, and I'm going to try and get these guys into this building here. Did our jet actually attack there? I'm not even sure if it did it run or not. We probably need to support our guys, because they're getting slaughtered. And we probably need to bring in one of those nice anti-infantry tanks up here. Yeah, we're not engaging with that, so we're going to evac it. It's not doing what we want it to do. We've got some nice fire support here. Oh, they brought in some mortars, and they're trying to mortar our guys here. I'll just move the chasseurs over this way. I'm just going to move that all the way up here. And that to here. They're trying to push in here. Oh, our tank is dead. I'm going to move these guys up here. And I'm going to move the flamethrowers over this way, because they're bringing in infantry. And where's our artillery pieces? There they are. So we're going to put those on control group 2. We're going to press T, and we're immediately going to bombard this area. So we kill those guys that are coming in. And all we want to do is kill them before they get near us. At this side, these pioneers are proving a real pain for us. Let's move up. I'm going to bring in some logistics here. They haven't done very well at all. Let's bring in a couple of cheap tanks as well to support. So our artillery should hopefully be firing here. Our guys are falling back. There we go. So our artillery's coming in. We've got some Panzerjäger there. Our flamethrower should be giving some shots here. Let's bring in some more flame infantry. And let's push up these guys. Artillery's doing a good job there, so we can probably tell it to stop firing now. They've got some artillery at the back as well, by the looks of it. Didn't see where it was firing from, though. Could also be mortars. because it's not doing a lot. And Panzerjäger killed my guys. That's very rude. Our flame troop should be able to help with that. Let's bring in a bunch more chasseurs up here. Where are these guys going? Here we go. So, flamethrowers should be able to engage these guys. Now, they have 2 RPGs, so sending tanks against them is actually really dangerous. So, don't do what I just did. Panzerjäger, I did think the Panzerjäger have multiple RPGs, so not the best thing to engage. We've lost a bunch of stuff here. But we can now think about ending this. So let's bring in a logistics vehicle for the center. We'll bring in a cheap one. Just sit it at the back. And then let's bring in logistics for here as well. Because we're in control now, realistically. These are all getting repaired. We've got plenty of infantry here as well, which we can unload. And maybe we think about pushing up into this area. And these guys providing some nice cover fire support. We've got lots of stuff here. The Milans are out of ammo. We'll make sure this is close enough. Let's move the AMXs up to this edge. I think we can safely move up AMXs here. I think we can move up this Brennus to here. I'm still trying to bring stuff around this way. Reinforcements have arrived, but we're struggling with the infantry here. We've got a Panzerjäger there, which we are covering with crossfire from here. Let's move the Mistral up to the front. We can probably move up our Roland and that as well now, because we're in a much better position. Move this up to here, move the logistics up to here as well. We could probably kill those mortars if I see them firing. But we control the map. We can easily win this now. I'm just kind of letting it play out, per se. So they're providing good harassment at this side. I will give them that. They've killed our tank again. Not that the tank's in the best position in a forest, might I say. Move these guys up here. Reinforcements are arriving now. We have a load of tanks here, which we're going to move up perhaps into here. They're really trying to get around the back of us. Let's unload these guys here, and we're just going to send them this way. Flams need to go that way as well. These guys are going to come up this way. Ah, so we're surrounded now, so maybe I need to get these guys over here as well. I keep missing where they're firing the mortars from. So these guys are in a little bit of trouble. We're going to send these guys up to assist. These guys are going to go up to assist. The chasseurs are all going to come in that way as well. We finally lost a vehicle. I'm going to push this one up with these guys. And we're going to send these tanks up here as well. They've got their mortars quite spread out, actually. There's one there, look. So we'll hit that with our artillery. We need some recon up here, I think. So let's get a Razit up there. And we're just holding at this side. Or losing units, I should say, at the edge here. So let's just pull these back. We don't need to be so far forward. So yeah, against the AI, I guess playing defensively is a reasonable solution. Because they won't be able to push you, but that's the same in a lot of games. How defensively you play, though, is you eventually have to push because you have to control points in this game. You can't just sit forever. I mean, with the forces we have, we could probably even push this point. So let's move up the chasseurs. Let's move up the AMX to here. Let's move up these guys into this building. And these guys up to here. Recon can move up as well. So they've got a couple of vehicles there, but we can easily deal with that. There's got a lot of infantry here. Oh, they finally brought in a jet. Quick response from our fighter. Scramble our units. Too late. It's an anti-tank jet. We managed to kill it. Evac that. Oh, they've brought in an ATGM themselves. Oh, they've got loads of infantry here, so we need to back off. Loads of infantry in there. So we're not going to go in there. We're going to hit one. We're going to hit two and hit target, and then we're going to bombard that area. And we're getting hit pretty hard here as well by infantry. So they're not doing a bad job considering they're just AI. Let's bring in an anti-infantry tank. We got infantry on the way. Maybe we bring in a machine gunner as well. So yeah, let's just reverse out of that. We reverse back and get into a safer position, and we bring in some more logistics. But the game's over. So we did win. But obviously AI putting up much more of a fight there, but massively in our favour either way. But let's have a quick look at the replay and see what the AI did again. Okay, so longer game this time, 40 minutes. 43. I was going at a slower pace because I wasn't using a forward deployment, I guess. So AI had everything down ready, obviously. Lots of choppers at the start, so definitely planning to use those as harassment. Plenty of recon vehicles as well, which we did see at the start. But our recon vehicle slash tank is better. But there's those Gov gunships. Pretty good. 30mm cannons. Very strong in the game right now against vehicles, for example. But we planned for that. We had Mistrals up near the front. Straight away. So we could deal with that. And we had the jet purchased as soon as we saw there were enemies with choppers. I was quite surprised they suddenly brought in an aircraft right at the end. So let's have a slow down. We'll just slow it down to 2 times speed. So that was them calling in more because they felt they might have secured that. Obviously, I saw those. We called in the jet. I unloaded stuff early. Unloaded those guys early. Jet took that out. Mistral from that side, doing a good job at engaging that. Made it out of control, if nothing else, and then eventually did get killed. Our jet did come back in and get some shots off. AMXs doing a very good job throughout this. The AMX 10s, ridiculously good recon vehicle. But obviously their force is very clustered here. Very clustered. Very little here until these tanks arrived. We could have potentially pushed that earlier with our infantry. We could have done that. But at the risk of losing those infantry and then taking longer to do a push later. So it's a bit of balancing. Look at this that was going on at the side that we didn't see. We didn't have recon at the sides. So there is something to be said for potentially having recon at the side, so it's hard to see in forests anyway. So there was their command at the back of that. They had very little in here. That's what they sent up there. It was a Strela. So we saw a unit up there at one point. It was a Strela. Interesting. Good tactic, having anti-air along the sides of the map like that. Even more interesting is getting a couple of Strelas or manpads round the back of your opponent and sitting them near their entry point. Can take shots at any jets trying to retreat, for example. I've seen that done by people before. Oh, jet came back in there to try and do a strafing run. I think it actually did get a strafing run on those infantry there. I think it struggled in the forest, though. So they had another command vehicle here. I don't know where it was going. Just those Strelas there. They called a load of stuff into our point. So that's typical AI, not really understanding that we control that point. And rather than putting stuff into their own point, they just call stuff into the point they want to go to. Over here, bits and pieces coming down this road. That AMX did a really good job for a long time. I think the worst thing we did here was push into this area. We could have just sat back and defended. And it would have been easier for us to just hold that area in like a semicircle rather than push into here. Really, we should have pushed all the way to here if we were going to do that and stop them coming down this road. Anti-air-wise, they really didn't have very much, did they? So we could have made more use of jets, but we didn't really need to versus the AI. There was times in that game I kind of wished I had a HE bomber. But then I started using the artillery to fulfill that role, to hit where I thought there were enemy infantry. So they had the command all the way at the side of the map there, which is super weird. That's the second time I've seen an AI do that on this map. Do you remember last time there was one just sat at the back here? So we got shot at a few times from back here by AA, and I've not actually seen any AA back here. So I'm a little bit confused by that. But yeah, I think at every point in that game we had much more. We could have been much more aggressive versus the AI. We could have, I mean, look at the amount of units we have there. We could have easily overwhelmed all of these. And I was playing very cautiously. Which is one of the things you can do against the AI. It might not be quite as effective against a player. If you're against a good player, they'll find a weak point in your defense and exploit it. But the AI obviously just kept throwing units at us down here. And to some extent here as well. Speed this up a bit. I think we've seen mostly what they've done there. Oh, they brought in some... So that's some of the anti-air then. So they had some manpads back here. Just some Strelas. I mean, we could have easily overwhelmed this AI with aircraft. It's possible that AI would respond by bringing in more anti-air, of course. It was bringing in a lot when we started to push down this side. But mostly just cheap tanks going into our better tanks. We were pushing there as well. We started to push up here. There were units still in those choppers, so the AI aren't actually deploying all of their units out of their choppers for some reason. I'm not sure why. They called something in Bravo, did you see that? They actually called units in the middle of Bravo. I don't know why. I don't feel like the AI should be quite doing that when they don't even control the middle point. It's a weird thing to do. I lost a lot of units at that side. That was my takeaway from that game. I lost a lot of units there. And I also lost quite a few here. I just wasn't controlling my infantry very well. So that would be my takeaway from this game. Better infantry control in these forested areas. And I lost quite a few vehicles here as well. Oh, that ATGM plane did get a kill. But it took fire from the Strelas. SU-25 much better. A-10 much better. Especially with their ridiculous cannons now. But that's pretty much how the game played out. After that, we just kept pushing. Little bits here, little bits there. And the AI obviously just flooded stuff in, but couldn't really respond. I mean, it was calling in ATGMs at this side of the map. Obviously, probably because of our tanks, but they're a bit far back. They did flood in a lot of infantry towards the end at Echo, though. You see it on the right-hand side of the map there. This is why I was struggling so much. It's really interesting to see what the AI does, because it's not what you expect. So much infantry there. And at the other side as well, just this steady stream of infantry. And in fairness, all this infantry was a pain in the bum as well when I tried to push there. Again, they're trying to call in stuff in our point, and they don't even control their point. Yeah, I just think that's really strange. I mean, I could understand if you called it around the edge of the map and brought it back in. Sort of cutting off the supply and distracting me. But we just had a wall that was very hard for them to penetrate. Especially here. I think I was overzealous, to be honest, in pushing into this area. I could have just sat back. The same here. I could have just sat back. This was a surprise, all the infantry in here. Random supply chopper. That did not last long. Yeah, so much infantry there. Now, I did drop my artillery on that area. I don't know if I got any kills because the infantry's kind of spread out, but... And there was the game. Interesting. Let's have a look at the kills and losses just out of interest. So, on Milan 2 getting kills. That got quite a few kills, actually. Got a chopper at the start. I did get that anti-tank jet. Milan 2 was rocking. AMX-10RC, yeah. AMX-30B2, yeah. AMX-10RC, yeah. AMX-30B did well. VAB T20 got a lot of kills. I don't know where that was. Middle, maybe? Brennis did a good job. Brennis did a good job. And on the other side, it was their infantry that was the biggest issue for me. And it was my bad positioning in the forest and not playing very well in the forest that I lost a lot of infantry and vehicles. That was just on me. There's no other excuse for that. Just bad positioning. Well, that was good fun. I enjoyed that. It's interesting to see how the AI play. Very different to a human player. You have to approach it slightly differently. But yes, building a defensive wall against the AI works really well. Well, again, I hope that was helpful. I hope it was interesting seeing a deck built and then seeing it in action against the AI, because I know some people do love playing against the AI. And I'll see you all soon for some more WARNO.